In mid-March 2025, a 19-second video emerged on Chinese social media. Standing eerily still above the waves off an unidentified sandy beach in China's Guangdong province are three enormous interlocking structures. Within hours, the clip had disappeared from WeChat, but it was too late. Copies had already been circulated widely among military analysts. Military intelligence officers immediately recognized these massive platforms for what they truly are: a solution to Beijing's impossible invasion equation. These shadowy vessels could bypass Taiwan's heavily fortified beaches and render decades of defensive strategy obsolete overnight. For 70 years, the 100-mile water barrier has kept China at bay. Beijing has found a way to bridge that gap. The challenge. Roughly 100 miles off the Chinese coast, Taiwan has long sat in an extremely precarious position. The last remaining bastion of nationalist forces after Mao Zedong's communist armies took control of the mainland in 1949, it has developed into a self-governing democratic nation in its own right. Yet Beijing considers it a breakaway province that needs to be reunified with the rest of the country, by force if necessary. Under current leader Xi Jinping, China has been intensifying its pressure on Taiwan through near-daily military activities around the island, including sending fighter jets into Taiwan's air defense identification zone and conducting naval exercises in the Taiwan Strait. However, Taiwan has geography on its side. The predominantly rocky coastline of its main island leaves fewer than 20 beaches suitable for conventional amphibious landings, and these are well known and heavily defended with anti-landing equipment. Any Chinese attempt to send troops to attack the island would undoubtedly face a tremendous challenge. That is, until now. The Suqiao ships. Constructed at Guangzhou Shipyard International on Longshui Island, the Suqiao ships are totally different from anything seen in current Western military arsenals. These vessels can act as floating highways, linking transport ships to the shore. So unlike conventional ships, they do not need to beach themselves or rely on ports. Designed to function as mobile piers, they can link large transport ships to the shore, providing a bridge over which a continuous flow of troops, tanks, and supplies can cross. So far, military analysts have identified at least 3 distinct designs, each one seemingly created to serve a specific role during amphibious operations. The smallest variant, Suqiao 110, features 4 jack-up legs and measures approximately 360 feet in length with a 125-foot extendable ramp. Apparently designed to serve as the beachhead connector, this shallow water vessel creates the crucial link between sea and shore. The mid-size design, Suqiao 135, extends to roughly 440 feet with 6 stabilizing legs. It has platforms on both sides for docking transport ships. Meanwhile, the largest of the 3, Suqiao 185, stretches over 600 feet with 8 legs and features additional platforms in its stern, presumably allowing it to serve as the terminal element furthest from the shore. It seems these vessels can be positioned together to form a causeway stretching nearly 2,800 feet into the sea. Satellite imagery confirms they're self-propelled, capable of independent transit to staging areas. The most distinctive feature is the ability to raise themselves above the waves using hydraulic legs that extend to the seabed, creating a stable platform, even in poor weather conditions. The barges are designed to interface with China's growing fleet of civilian roll-on roll-off ferries. These ostensibly commercial vessels have been modified for military use under China's National Defense Transportation Law of 2017, which requires all transport infrastructure to be available for military purposes if needed. With reinforced ramps capable of handling main battle tanks, these ferries can dock directly with the Suqiao barges. This could potentially allow the Chinese to deliver vehicles onto land at a rate of hundreds per hour. A rapidly growing threat. This is not the first time that the idea of using platforms to support an amphibious invasion has been used. During the invasion of Normandy in World War II, the Allied forces dragged temporary ports known as the Mulberry Harbors into the English Channel, allowing massive quantities of men and material to flow ashore despite the lack of suitable harbor facilities. Nevertheless, China's new system appears to be far more sophisticated. Unlike the fixed Mulberry Harbors, these barges are mobile, allowing them to be rapidly redeployed to different locations. Citing satellite imagery of recent exercises, former U.S. submariner and defense analyst at the Center for New American Security, Thomas Schugert, noted, quote, "We've seen them set up and broken down and set up again multiple times within a matter of days." It is clear that with these vessels, the number of possible landing sites for an amphibious force could expand dramatically. With these barges, Chinese forces could potentially land anywhere within about 500 feet of a coastal road, opening up vast stretches of Taiwan's 580-mile coastline to the risk of invasion. One professor of strategy at the China Maritime Studies Institute, Andrew Erickson, believes, quote, "These bridge barges are purpose-built for a Taiwan invasion scenario. They embody the seriousness with which China, under Xi, is pursuing absorption of Taiwan by any means possible." However, as China continues to assert itself, the Shuqiao ships are just one part of President Xi's plan. In recent years, the country has undergone a broader military modernization program, which includes one of the largest military buildups since World War II. The People's Liberation Army, or PLA, has been systematically finding ways to overcome various logistical challenges that an invasion of Taiwan could involve. U.S. intelligence has assessed that Xi expects the PLA to be capable of launching such an operation by 2027. However, the accelerated development of these vessels, with at least 6 reportedly under construction or completed, suggests China may be ahead of schedule. Jason Wang, chief executive of geospatial analysis company Ingenispace, notes, quote, "The speed with which they produce these vessels indicates urgency. They can produce the ships really fast, 4 to 6 months, and get them into theater." At the same time, China has also been rapidly expanding its commercial fleet. According to The Guardian, in a recent report on China's growing dual-use shipbuilding industry, the Center for Strategic and International Studies concluded that China's largest single state-owned shipbuilder had constructed, quote, "more commercial vessels by tonnage in 2024 than the entire U.S. shipbuilding industry has built since the end of World War II. Now, the concern is that vast numbers of these commercial ships could be adapted for military use, as seen with the roll-on roll-off ferries, putting China in an even more powerful position. Vulnerabilities. Despite their capabilities, the Shuqiao barges have significant vulnerabilities that could well leave them susceptible to counterattack. Not only do they move slowly and lack defensive armament, but their large size and distinctive appearance make them easy to spot. Once deployed, they essentially become stationary targets, especially vulnerable to precision munitions, such as Taiwan's Shengfeng 3 supersonic anti-ship missiles, American-supplied Harpoon missiles, and newly acquired HIMARS rocket systems, which, in the event of a combat situation, would all be capable of disabling or destroying the barges before they could establish a beachhead. Military experts have also identified another possible Achilles heel: the jack-up legs supporting the barges. Precision strikes on these support structures would likely cause catastrophic platform failure, turning the barges from assets into obstacles that could actually impede further landing operations. Military sources indicate Taiwan is developing a network of mobile missile batteries specifically calibrated to target the barge's vulnerable leg mechanisms. Meanwhile, in closed-door legislative sessions, defense officials presented a revised porcupine strategy, emphasizing distributed coastal defense networks rather than concentrated forces at traditional landing beaches. Many military voices within Taiwan seem unfazed by the vessels. Yu Pei-chen, a former Taiwanese army major turned city councilor, quipped to local media, quote, "China should build more barges of the same kind and send them to Taiwan. That would save the ammo for our armed forces." However, military analysts believe the barges would not likely be deployed during the initial assault phase. Rather, they would form part of a follow-on wave, establishing a logistical bridge for heavy equipment after initial landing forces had secured a beachhead and achieved fire superiority. Thomas Schugert explains, quote, "Before they even think about embarking a landing force and sending troops across the strait, they would already make sure that they have seized air, information, and naval dominance all the way across." Retired Taiwanese Navy major and political commentator Liu Li-shi has echoed this view, noting that the barges would likely only be deployed, quote, "after Taiwan's armed forces lose their control of the air and sea." Perhaps Taiwan's primary defense against these platforms might be preventing China from establishing the conditions necessary for their deployment in the first place. An imminent clash. Though they may have their limitations, there's little doubt that the emergence of China's Shuqiao barges signals an ominous new phase in the increasingly hostile situation developing across the Taiwan Strait. Intelligence sources report that China has been conducting comprehensive invasion drills, integrating these platforms into much larger operations. In March 2025, satellite imagery captured Chinese forces staging a full rehearsal at Nansan Island near Zhanshan, including electronic warfare elements designed to blind Taiwan's radar systems during the critical early hours of an assault. These platforms may even have implications not just for Taiwan, but for other territorial disputes throughout the South China Sea. The ability to create temporary harbors in areas lacking port infrastructure could potentially be applied to contested islands and reefs, strengthening China's position in other parts of the region. In the meantime, with each successful test, China's massive new vessels bring the possibility of an amphibious assault on Taiwan from the realm of theory into tangible reality. For the 23 million people living on the island, these barges aren't just military hardware. They're an unmistakable message from Beijing. Invasion is closer than ever. Some analysts believe China may not even have to deploy the Shuqiao ships for them to serve their purpose. The mere threat they pose could be enough to frighten Taiwan into submission. Dr. Emma Salisbury, Sea Power Research Fellow at the Council on Geostrategy, described them as strategic signaling, explaining, quote, Beijing wants Taipei to see their improved capabilities and reconsider its resistance. Whatever the case may be, it seems this decades-long standoff is drawing ever closer to its ultimate resolution.